Hello, this is WSC, and welcome to a progress update of my Crash Battleship scenario. So last time I showed this map off, all that had been done is just the interior damage and some of the interior detailing in this map, but nothing else was here, no objectives or anything else. So most people didn't really understand what this was supposed to be, but I'll be showing that off in this video. And also a link to the previous video in the description or somewhere else. And just to explain this scenario a bit, it is kind of a defend the monument. One team will defend the battleship here, and the main point they will want to defend in the battleship will be the bridge, and one team will fly in on a gunship that has some resources and some vehicles and be trying to attack this ship and obtain what I will assume will probably be like a flag or info, what will basically be info in the bridge here, and try to get that off to an extraction point and win the game for them. And as well, for this game mode, I guess you could call it, there will be, I guess you could call it a natural timer, which will be, there will be a approaching ship that is very far away at the start of the match, and it will take around 30 minutes to get over here, and when it is within about 5 kilometers, it will fire a nuclear missile that will completely destroy the battleship, which will lose the attacking team the game. And let me just make sure I'm not missing anything here. And as well, jetpack and third person will be disabled. Jetpack for obvious reasons, so people can't zoom around and dodge past everything and just Hydro Man or Jetpack Zerg Rush or whatever you want to call it, their way to victory. So, and third person is disabled, so you can't peek around corners really easily and just spot where the enemy's coming just right off the bat, because I want there to be a bit of, well, just a bit more strategy in deciding on which angle you want to attack the battleship from. So, yeah. Now on to what has changed. So starting off with what has changed, I have added a spawn for the map all the way over there. You can see the GPS point for it. But I'm not going to show that off in this video because I'm probably going to get rid of that. Just because it didn't turn out how I wanted it to be. And it's just not up to my quality. So I don't feel showing it is right in this video. But now on to the Crash Battleship here. So to start things off, I'll just give a basic tour of the interior because I've already done it. Mind you, a little bit of things have changed, but not much. But the main thing that has changed, that you may notice here if you've watched the previous video, is there are now signs above each door so the enemy team can actually figure out where they're trying to go. Just because before, you know, someone who's playing this map for the first time will probably not know how this ship is laid out, and I just didn't want that to be that big of an issue. So naturally I put the signs everywhere, and they go all the way up to the bridge. So there is signs at every little entrance to every room. So there should be no problems there. And as well, I have added resources now in this Crash Battleship, which those resources are mostly just in these first cargo containers, or some of these cargo containers here. There is a lot of ammo, so you know you can keep everything stocked up. And as well, if we go into the crew areas here, there's a good amount of resources here to use to make 10 infantry guns, so you can place them all over the place and just kind of set up defenses so the attacking team won't have that easy of a time. And as well, there are these 2 storage closets on either side of the central area here, which each of these have a good amount of tools, weaponry and 10 meg kits and 10 power kits in. This one, for instance, has all the proficient tools in it because I give both teams a lot of proficient tools and about 3 sets of all the elite tools. Mind you, yes, there are drills in these, but you can't drill because that would be a bit cheap. And I'm not going to show the room on the opposite side because it is locked up. But just to know what is in there, it is basically the same thing as the other room, but it has the elite tools and it has the rifles. So that is basically it. And for defenses, there is no real defenses on the inside, but you're in a battleship. Scrap parts of it and make some defenses. Like, for instance, here at the top of these stairs, you could put one of these little things you can shoot through and easily have a really good spot to take people out who are trying to get up to the bridge. And you know, you can put those anywhere. You can put those up these stairs. You can put those down the long hallways. You can do anything with them. And also, you can put the interior turrets up here as well to take care of people and just make it a bit more difficult. But now, time to go to the main defenses here, which are in the main part of the ship. The main defenses here, I'll start off with the non-shooting defenses, which are these catwalks here that run across. While they may be heavily damaged, so they may not be as useful as you may think, they are still very, very good vantage points for people to sit up there with the targeting rifle and easily take people out who are trying to sneak through and get inside. And these catwalks run the whole length of the ship, so there is a ton of area to set up positions, I guess you could say. And as well, time for the shooting defenses. So as you can see, there are plenty of these custom battleship guns all around this thing. And majority of them are destroyed or damaged to the point where they don't work, but a lot of them still do work. Like this one here works on this side, even though it may not have as good a vantage point as the other side, just so there is one here. And there is 2 on this side, since this is the easiest side to get in from. There is one there, and there is one here. And these are quite powerful, to say the least, even though these will be changed, but more on that later. And as well, up top, as you can see, not all of these turrets are completely destroyed or damaged. So because of that, there is some basic turret defense up here, because the attacking team can make guided missiles and can make small flyers. So I just wanted to make it so those weren't too powerful. And as well, you'll notice this big battleship gun up here, which is fully functional. And the main role this has is just in case if the enemy team wants to get onto the surface of the battleship here, they're not going to have that easy of a time with this big battleship gun. And as well, it kind of invalidates them using heavier flying vehicles, because this can easily take them out. Which, as well, that big battleship gun is controlled from the bridge in here. And as well, onto the bridge, because it has quite a bit of defenses in its own right, which are not what you may think. Which up here, you have access to a radar script and a floor plan script. So you probably want to have someone in the bridge at all times, because both of these would be very important to use for information. Because with the floor plan script, you can easily tell which area the enemy is trying to dig in, if they're trying to take, a bit of a different route to get in. And as well, the radar script works with the remaining turrets out there, so they can't really sneak up as easy. And as well, there are plenty of entry routes. Like I said, you can approach from the top here, but you have to deal with all the turrets but it's very open and you have a direct shot at the bridge. You can come from the back here, which has this just awful and uneven terrain, and it only has one way in, but it is also very direct. And if the defending team doesn't set up, some decent defenses here, this is a major weak spot. And as well, you have both of the sides where the broadside guns sit, which on this side it would be harder to get into, but the attacking team could take advantage of that knowledge and come in here, because the defending team may not think to at all put any defenses here, because why would they try to come up this way? As well, you could burrow in from the front, because as you can see here, no turrets can see you from this angle. And also, because there is no third person, it would be very hard for the defending team to see you at all, unless they have some guys out here patrolling. But that would leave them a bit weak. So, there's that angle. And as well, there is the major side here, which is the easiest way to get in. And as well, if you notice, this entrance is the most spacious to get in. That is because these hallways are made so you can actually drive vehicles down them. Which, if you need a little bit of extra help, if the defending team has some pretty tough defenses in this room here. So, and also you could try to come up the wing here to get on top of it. But that is reasonably hard, and, they're gonna see you if you try to do that. But now, time to go over the approach points here. So starting with approach point 1, which is all the way down here. Whenever you would land here, you are the closest to the ship out of all of the other points, but they're probably going to be able to see you even when you land. But you can go anywhere. As you can see, there's little ridges all around here. You can go all the way around the ship extremely easy from here. And so it has its advantages and disadvantages. And as well, approach point 2 over here has some pretty major advantages and disadvantages, which is that when you land here, mind you, they will see you approaching. Well, let's just say this. They will know which approach point you chose if they're keeping a close eye, because they're all reasonably close enough. Mind you, this approach point is the hardest to get to the actual battleship from, because you gotta go over this hill. But also, you have the most cover when you sit here, because they absolutely cannot see what you are building back here. But you don't really have many places you can go. If you go down here, they're going to know where you are, and they're going to know where you're going. If you go up here, they're going to also know where you're going and where you are. So you have a good vantage point, you have good cover, but you can't really go as many places without them absolutely knowing. So, but also, approach point 3 here is kind of a mix in between. It's got a little bit of some cover here. Mind you, they could just peek around this and probably see what you're doing, but it won't be that easy. But also, you have some smaller ridges around here that you could bring your vehicles around and sneak around. But as you can see, it's not as flawless as approach point 1. So I just wanted all the approach points to be relatively balanced, and in my opinion, that seems pretty darn balanced to me. But now, since I've covered just about everything over here, it is time to move on to the attacking ship, which is all the way over there. Alright, now over here at the attacking side, you can see this is where the ship starts, which is quite far away, to say the least, from the crashed battleship. Which that's just so they absolutely positively cannot see this thing from where the crashed battleship will be. But also, it has a relatively direct flight path to get to the crashed battleship. But now, on to what the attackers have. Which, for what they have these two vehicles here, which They have an APC and they have a tank. And this tank I'll show a bit more on later, because if you can't tell, this tank design is a little bit old. So this will not be the actual tank they use in the final product of this map. And as well, the APC, I will show this off because I don't think I'm going to change this, because this is a pretty good vehicle as is, and there's nothing really to add to it that would make it have a huge advantage over this current model. But going into this thing, as you could tell, it is pressurized, which isn't that important, but, you know, it's there if you want it. And as well, you notice, this is your mobile survival kit. So this is the vehicle you want to keep a bit farther back than the tank or any of your other attacking vehicles, because while this thing can take quite the punishment, you don't want to lose it, because this is your easy way to respawn close to the defending ship. So, and as well, you'll notice that this APC has almost all of the guns you will ever need for the attacking side, and it also has all the pistols in the small cargo containers. And as well, it's got the ramp here so you can easily get out without jetpack. And right here, it has a O2 H2 generator for you to refill oxygen bottles with relative ease. And as well, starting with the inside of the ship here, or the outside of the ship here, these are the releases for these two vehicles. Mind you, this one will have to be changed because the new version of the tank doesn't have a connector on the top, but I'll worry about that on my own time. And right here, you can see this cargo container. This has a little bit of resources, just so the attacking team, they can build whatever they want, but nothing too crazy. So, you know, they can't build like a large grid railgun and just snipe out the enemy med bay and, you know, call it a day. But they have enough resources to where, you know, if they play smart, they can really make the defending team not have an easy time. And as well, you notice this ship, it's a decent sized ship, and it's probably got quite a few parts in it. So, you know, you could easily scrap this ship and make more things out of it, or you could make, because this ship is primarily hydrogen powered, you could easily make hydrogen powered missiles off of it, or other things like that. So, you know, it's quite a good base to build things off of. And as well, in the interior here, you have their med bay, and this is the little button panel that they select for the approach points. Mind you, there will be probably like an LCD right there that shows the map of the approach points. I don't have that right there at the moment, and I will not show you the this thing approaching because it needs a bit of tweaking. It works, but the landings are a bit more rough than I would like them to be, so I'm not going to show that off. But as well, as you can tell, this area will be pressurized, and you can see the cockpit's open here. That will not be like this in the final version, and you may think, you know, you just grind through the door, grind this down, rebuild it, and there you go. You know, you have this thing that could be really overpowered to use. Well, I'm going to figure out a way probably to use the replay tools and put a character in this seat so you cannot control this thing whatsoever, because this ship would just be a bit too overpowered to use. And as well, in these you have all your proficient tools here, and I think the elite tools are in something else, or they will be there. And as well, you have your 20 med kits and 20 power kits, which is the exact same amount that the defenders have. And as well, here are all the rocket launchers. In this cargo container, you have all the oxygen bottles and some missiles for the rocket launchers and for other turrets. And as well, you have an assembler up here. And this assembler is so, you know, you see this thing has ion thrusters and probably a bunch of other parts. Well, you can take those parts and get the raw materials out of them to make different parts at very easily. So, shouldn't be that big of a deal. And as well, you can see there's some seats in here, so some of your team can sit down, and you know, some of your team can stand up and like get stocked up and stuff. So it should be relatively interesting. And as well, I was going to show off the extraction point, because that's pretty important to the attacking team. So, mind you, this may change. I cannot guarantee that it will change, but as it stands right now, it seems like it should work. And this is the ship that the attacking team, once they get, I guess you could say, once they capture the flag from the crashed battleship, they will have to get over here from any means necessary, get inside this ship, and probably hit a button, which will close the doors and make this thing fly off, winning them the game. Which this is just a smaller gunship that's hydrogen based, so it's relatively fast, but also it's easy to get into and everything. And mind you, the only reason there is a platform here, because mind you, this may not make much sense, you know, why is there a platform out in the middle of nowhere for this thing to just sit on? That's so I don't encounter any issues with this thing, because before I've had issues where it just doesn't sit on the ground properly with it, or you know, because it's angled on the ground, you can't like just get in it real easy and stuff like that, and I just didn't want to have to deal with that. So that's why it's sitting on a platform. And that is also just the extraction point in the extraction vehicle. Now, time to move back over to the crashed battleship to show off what is going to change with this map. Alright, now it's time to talk about what is going to change a lot with this map. So if you've noticed, a lot of these custom turrets are pre-Warfare 2. So to say the least, they're kind of bad. But I plan to change that quite a bit, just so these guns are actually really good. And also, if you haven't seen the video that I put up where I kind of demonstrate these, they're also really shaky. But that will change with the new ones, because I've figured out how to fix out that issue. But right here are the two new types of turrets for the battleship. If you can't tell, this right here is the new broadside gun, which is a lot smaller, also a lot better armored, so it's harder to take out, and also just in general a bit easier to use. But you'll notice there's no control seat on this thing. But in the newest version of the battleship, the control seats are now on these little staircase things to the side of the cannons, so I'll have to change that up. But this will probably take a bit to change all those out because they're on the side, and I will have to take out all the damaged ones and all the working ones, re-damage the ones I put in there, and it's going to take a little bit, to say the least. And as well, this is the new battleship gun right here, which, mind you, it's not triple barrel like the original one is, but I just found triple barrel guns with the new Warfare 2 custom turret thing to be a bit too finicky for my liking. So I just went for a very basic double barrel gun, because it works just as good as the triple barrel gun does, but it has a little bit less issues. Which all I have to do for this is just replace that one right there, so it shouldn't be that hard. And as well, if you notice this right here, you may think, oh, that's just a horrible weak spot on it. I mean, look at the original. This thing has also much more major weak spots on it. So I would say this one's a lot better. And as well, this is the new version of the tank right here, which has one of the new autocannon turrets on top, so it actually has a proper anti-infantry gun, and also has one of the new tank guns, and is just overall better built. Because it doesn't have the advanced rotor and the connector in the top of it, it is a lot harder to take this thing out. And as well, you may not be able to tell, but the cockpit in it has been moved back a bit farther. So because of that, this thing is far harder to take out now. So this tank will take an absolute beating before it goes out. Because I think, just for reference, before This thing had about 2 layers of bulletproof glass before the cockpit, and I think this current one has like 4 or 5. So it's quite the difference, to say the least. But other than that, with the turret and the cockpit changes, it's the same tank, which this was already a pretty good tank, so there should be no issues there. But as well, there's some other things I want to change with this. So, as you would know, this map has no access to third person. And how on earth is the defending team ever going to spot anyone in their ship? Someone could just easily let's say they're not really looking that intuitively around here. They just sneak right in here, and they'll never know this person is in here. They could do all kinds of things while in here, like relaying info back to the attacking team and all kinds of stuff. Well, I've thought a bit of a answer to that problem, which is with the new custom turret things, you can make basically security cameras, which are just, basically just turrets without guns. That all you would do is you would just set them up to whenever, for example, this one here, as you can tell, if it can't see me, that beacon isn't on. And if it can see me, but I'm not like completely standing still, that beacon won't turn on. But you can see now it is on. But I could set that function up to a very, I guess you could say, a alarm in the bridge that you can only hear from the bridge, so the attacking team cannot hear it. That will alert the defending team that one of the cameras has spotted something. Which I will probably, since this seat right here is hooked up to the big heavy battleship gun, I will probably hook up this seat to all the security cameras. And, mind you, they're not the biggest deal in the world. They're a good help. Most likely I would think the attacking team would only fall for that trap once, I guess you could say. They'll realize these things are there, and, those things are a huge detriment to them, so they will start taking them out. But also, it's like, if you take them out, the defending team, they will hear you take them out. And also, the defending team will flat out know that you were there in the first place, because, if you stand still enough to where you can take it out, it's going to see you. So, in my opinion, it's got some good aspects to it, to say the least. So basically, it is not just obscenely weak and, just completely useless. Even if you take it out, it will spot someone. And even if the defending team does not notice, if someone gets in the camera watching seat, they will notice one of the cameras has been knocked out. So they should notice that something has changed. But other than that, I can't really think of any changes that I'm going to make with this that are super major. The only other minor changes that I know of is a lot of these turrets all over this thing. They're all the pre-Warfare 2 turrets, and in the newest model of this battleship, a lot of these guns have been changed, so I'm probably going to switch all those guns out. And also, I'll probably add a few more guns, because the gun layout on this, it doesn't have as many machine guns in the areas that they are on this model, so I'll probably add a few more of the machine guns back. And also, these like medium custom turrets, I'm just not going to put them back, because they were never that good. They just didn't work that well, and number one, they're all knocked out to begin with. And number two, like, for instance, this thing's in the way of this big battleship gun actually working. And I just think that's a bit of a pain to deal with. So, I'm going to completely get rid of them. And as well, there's no other major changes or minor changes that I could think of. If you've got any suggestions, let me know. If you see some like glaring weak point that I would never think of because I'm the only guy working on this, let me know, because I want this to be somewhat balanced, and probably once this map is in a fully playable state, but it's not that well balanced, I'll probably get a group of people together with me to help me try this map out, to help balance it. and I'll probably put up some videos of those chests just so everyone can see how that goes. And hopefully, once this map is fully done and it's balanced enough to where there's no major disadvantages in it, hopefully it should go up around April. Don't quote me on that. I have a really weird schedule, but I would like to get this out as soon as possible just because, you know, I want people to play with this. I want people to see if, like, I actually can make scenarios, or, you know, if this is actually a good idea, or, you know, this is just the first iteration and maybe I may have to make a second one to fully capture what this thing was going for. But other than that, that's it for this video. So take care. I'll see you in the next one. And bye-bye.